Do you use should statements such as I should be happy or I should lose weight? Should statements are a type of negative thinking pattern known as a cognitive distortion. They negatively impact your mental health and contribute to anxiety and depression. Should statements can also make you feel as if you have failed. For example, Michaela has a fear of flying, but she has to travel by air for her job, an IT consultant. She tells herself, I should be over this fear by now. I shouldn't feel this way, and I shouldn't be going away and leaving the children. Michaela's self-talk actually leads her to feel more anxious. She also feels a sense of shame as she believes she isn't living up to her potential. Albert Ellis, the founder of Rational Emotive Behaviour Therapy, or REBT, said that commands such as should, ought and must contribute to and maintain psychological distress. Ellis believes these commands come under three main categories: self-demandingness, other demandingness and world demandingness. For example, I should be able to solve every problem. You absolutely must treat me very well at all times. The conditions under which I live should always be easy and comfortable. Ellis explains that this absolutist way of thinking will create unnecessary psychological disturbance. Clayton Barbeau called it shoulding yourself. So within the psychology profession, it's a well-known fact that putting pressure on yourself via the use of should commands negatively impacts your mental health. The psychoanalyst Karen Horney named this experience the tyranny of the should. Horney believed that should commands cause disturbance because they generate a split between your real self, who you really are, and your ideal self, who you strive to be. Your ideal self is actually created out of your should commands. Now, the ideal self is not a positive goal. It's unrealistic and an impossible standard. It can also make you feel that your real self is flawed. Horney explains the aim of psychological therapy is to help you let go of these should commands and to be who you really are, your real self, not an idealised version of yourself. So the first step of letting go of your should commands is to notice them. You may want to write them down. It can also be helpful to analyse where they come from. For example, if you notice the should command, men shouldn't cry, you might recognise you internalise that from your dad. Now, this process of internalising others' opinions or beliefs is called introjection. So it's important to ask yourself, where does this should come from? And does it fit with my current values and beliefs? It's also helpful to experiment converting your should statements to preferences, such as I want to, I choose to, and I will. So instead of saying I shouldn't cry, it would be more helpful to say I will allow myself to cry. You could change I should lose weight to I will lose weight. Or I should have a better job to I choose to get a better job. Do you notice the difference? The should statements sound like you're putting pressure on yourself, and the preferences feel lighter and indicate a decision or a goal. To unhook from unhelpful patterns of thinking and take what you have learned to the next level, click on the ABCDE exercise, which is on the screen now. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Oh, dang it. I mean, hopefully y'all can hear me now. And we've got Hunter. And perfect timing. Hello.
Hey,
We're back at it again, streaming together, and I'm super excited. I would love for you to introduce yourself. I'm sure everyone in the live chat already knows who you are, Hunter, because you I feel like you're everywhere in a good way. And that's how I first met you. It's in one of the chats of another creator. It was either Aaron or Julie Joe, or I don't remember, but can you tell the live chat a little bit about who you are and um I don't know. I don't know all the good things, but there's probably um I don't know what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
just happy to have you here.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people have a good idea of who I am. A couple of people also follow me on Twitch as well, so they've sort of, there's nothing new, but yeah, I'm Hunter. Um, I'm Australian, if you haven't noticed, hence the accent. It's very hot now, so if there's any problems, um, sorry, the stream seems to have crashed, or is it okay?
You're good. You're still
Okay,
good.
cool. So if there's any problems with sweat, I'm just gonna be sort of wiping myself.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, I've been on DC's streams once before, and just the other day we were talking about the tyranny of shoulds, which is that intro video. And just for anyone who doesn't know, my background is psychology, so that's my degree. I know quite a bit, but really it's only in the last few years where I've actually started to try to reuse it again because I don't work in psychology. But yeah, and I guess today we just wanted to talk about a few things that are a little bit left of field of what other people maybe talk about in coverage of MLMs. Um, I don't know if you want to go into details about what the topics are. I really only came up with three that we could focus on, but one of them being the cognitive dissonance around shoulds. And
Yeah.
I thought we could start there, but that was a really poor intro. But it should, you'll know who I am by the end of the stream, I'm sure.
No, that's great. I always love having conversations with you. When I get the chance to hop on your Twitch streams, I really enjoy it. Your conversation with people is it to me at least it's very engaging and relaxing and you're so intelligent. I love like the chance to get to talk to you even if it's just in the chat, and then getting to have you on my stream last time was incredible. I had such a good time. You have very good, insightful questions. And my dad was like, Hunter's so smart. And I said, I know, it's awesome. And not that not that you have to be smart, but I appreciate your insight that you ask some really great questions, and I think we're gonna have a good conversation today. I'm just gonna throw the chat up on the screen so that if someone is watching this on their phone, it should be a little easier for them to pay attention. And if they want to see the chat as well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that. So
Also, just let me know if there's any delays on my end because I'm sort of streaming on a weird bandwidth. So
okay.
if it's a bit, yeah, just let me know. But I have notes this time.
I
If
love
3
it. I love a
pages
good note. I love a good structured note system. So yeah, so we're gonna talk about three different things, and Hunter's gonna run the show, and I'm just gonna be here to ask to ask questions if I don't understand something. So and if you're new here, I do a lot of MLM content. I do a lot of reaction videos. I like looking at things live, like Zoom calls, etc. I really love having conversations with people when it all works for everyone's schedule. Um, I got out of Young Living last year, and I was in Mary Kay before that. I'm trying to still process through my time in multi-level marketing, and it's been an up and down journey. I'm glad I'm out. It's been filled with lots of emotions, and as I've been processing that online and offline in therapy, it's I think I'm just trying to do what I can to help bring light to some exploitive practices that happen in multi-level marketing, exploitive recruiting, and bad behavior in health and wellness MLMs. And Hunter's here to help us get smarter, so I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Should we maybe give people a bit more time to come in, or do you want me to just start
Let's go ahead and
introing?
start. Got 20
what we want?
people here, so I think if we start talking, then on the replay crew will be able to just listen without any gaps, um and I think I have smaller streams sometimes, so and I haven't streamed in a while, so I think 20 is probably a good number for us right now. So yeah, let's start.
Okay, cool. So thanks for putting that video in the intro, because it actually cuts through a few of the points that I wanted to write down, but I ran out of paper. I set myself 3 pages because I knew I was just going to keep writing. But yeah, so the tyranny of shoulds, I guess the best way to put it is it's similar to cognitive dissonance, but it's different. And I'll kind of give you a bit of background as to why. So I don't think we need to go into detail about cognitive dissonance. It's 2 things that are conflicting. They go against one another. The best example is trying to quit smoking. You can really want to quit smoking, but you also smoke, and that activates the reward center. And so you're in 2 minds about it. And then when someone brings it up, it's like, I'll quit when I'm ready, something like that. And there's that internal conflict that just can't sort of be resolved. So it's a little bit different to that. So it's still a tension, but it's a tension that's sat in a different place. So it's got more to do with, I guess the best way to put it is, think of a triangle. Irony, I know, but think of a triangle, and you've got your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors. And that's pretty much where psychology sits, is right there in the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So if we think a certain way, we might feel a certain way, we'll act a certain way, is more or less how we operate in the world. But it doesn't always sort of lead down that way. So you might have a feeling that leads to a thought that leads to a behavior, or you might have a behavior that reinforces a thought or a feeling. And so it kind of sits more towards the feelings and emotions side of things, where cognitive dissonance sits more on the thoughts to behavior. So between those 2. So like in the video, it's that disconnect between the real self, which is who you are, and the perceived self, or the ideal self, or where you'd like to be. So to put that into terms of an MLM, it's where you start versus where you've seen other people get to, where you'd like to be based on the comparisons that you make. And the comparisons that you make, as we know, humans have a lot of distortions, particularly around memory and perception and things like that. So what we think someone did to get to where they are isn't always the road that they took to get to where they are. So we start to put these unnecessary or undue pressures on ourselves and become very pedantic about things like, I should be this way, I should do this, I should do that. I can't even remember what it was you said in the stream that really prompted that particular training. Like, was it a training or was it a Beachbody thing? But something sort of triggered that in me, and I kind of thought, we don't talk enough about all the other cognitive deceptions that our mind plays on us. And basically, I think, I'm just looking at my notes, which is why I keep looking down, but comparison is usually the main point of contention, but it doesn't always start there. So these shoulds that we have don't come from things we learn. They usually come from when we're a bit younger, or things that we've learned in the past. And that's why I wanted to say, when there's smoke, there's fire, because people might be vulnerable, but no one really looks into the proclivities that go behind what made them vulnerable in the first place, what made them maybe lean into X behaviors instead of Y behaviors. And
Interesting.
I just wanted to sort of ask you, what you thought so far about that being a cousin to cognitive dissonance, but not necessarily being the same thing, but still occupying the same space.
Yeah, I think that understanding it, or you talking about understand, or you bringing up the tyranny of the shoulds, it fills in some of the gaps or the pieces of the complexity of what happens. Well, in specifically in an MLM, we hear a lot about cognitive dissonance, where you kind of have that inner, or that thought of like, I want to do this but I can't, or I should do this but I still want to do this. And then with there's additional pieces that play into the pull of why you stay in for so long. In my opinion, I don't know. Um, I think you're paused, Hunter. Or maybe I'm paused. Sherry, I was a kidnapper in my MLMs. Mary Kay called them kidnappers too. I think, let me try to pop. Hunter, oh no. Let me see. Let me try to message him. I think you're paused. Okay. I thought he was pausing. I think he's paused. It says low internet connection for him on my end, so it might be his internet. I hope this works. I'm guessing, do y'all does everyone in the live chat, I think Aaron speaks about it a lot. Let me see. So I'm going to pop the definition in the live chat for cognitive dissonance. And here we go. He's back. He's back. I think I just heard his beep. There we go. Sorry, Hunter.
Is that working?
Yep, it's working now.
Okay. Does it sound bumpy or is it all right?
It sounds all right. I'm guessing does connectivity issues?
I knew this would happen. Let's see.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, if this doesn't work out, then we will watch something, because hopefully I hear the little beep that he's coming back in. I can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yep.
Is that working?
Yes. It looks like you have strong signal now, and your video's clear and your audio's clear.
Is it clear?
Yep. It looks clear to me. It might be fuzzy on your end, but on my end it's very, very crisp.
I'm just checking on my mobile. Hang on. Okay, that looks better. Okay. I unplugged my webcam because it was probably taking too much upload stuff away. So this is just my normal webcam.
Okay.
Is it all good?
Yep. We're good.
It's only yours that's a bit laggy on my end, but I can deal with that.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, it might be fine now. Yeah, it's clearing up. Okay. So hey, Kurt's here. So yeah, one of the two distinctions you can make between cognitive dissonance and tyranny of shoulds is one is more concerned with seeking pleasure and one's more concerned with seeking safety. So
Mm.
you can think of the tyranny of shoulds is seeking out some form of it's more of a self-preservation piece, and seeking pleasure or cognitive dissonance is kind of where you see things like addiction or addiction in forms of financial gain and money and things to that extent. So they kind of occupy different spaces, but um, fundamentally, it's still the denial of the true self. It's still denying that where you're at is where you want to be, what you want, you don't have, kind of thing. And that's basically what breeds the cognitive dissonance. And then I'll just quickly explain this, and then we can just go into talking about back and forth stuff. But it relates a lot to belonging. And one of the three, well, there's three different sort of spaces in which it sits. So compliance, aggression, or withdrawal. You can only pick one of those three avenues. You can't exist in all three avenues. And it's a strategy chosen that basically it's by demand. So however we relate to the situation at hand is which we choose. So in some cases, again, putting it in the spectrum of MLMs, you've got compliance, which is someone who will fundamentally just do everything that they're told. You've got aggression, which again is kind of putting up a fight against. Is it still having connection issues, or is it all right?
I think you're good. You
Okay.
look clear on my end, so I think it should be okay. I'm gonna mute it and
Just
look
keep
on
getting
my
pop-ups.
stream. Okay.
And then withdrawal. So you could see something like withdrawal as like a brooding artist. You might see aggression as someone like an incel, or you might see compliance as someone who just gets absolutely walked all over. In each case, belonging still exists. So there's different sort of forms of what they want the relationship to be. And it works both interpersonal and interpersonal. I realized that all of my notes were very high level and I didn't have anything prepared about how I'd speak to each of these, but hopefully it makes sense. And so, yeah, when you choose a primary strategy, so if you choose to be compliant, you end up having that distortion between aggression and withdrawal. They go away and you become fully compliant, or you have aggression and you put aside withdrawal and compliance. And basically you choose one of these ways of thinking, one of these ways of doing things, one of these ways of feeling things, and then that becomes your personality, which should tie into some of the other stuff that we were talking about, the tunnel vision and the point of no return, which are the other two topics.
Okay, so let me ask you a quick question to hopefully don't derail you. I think, at least I've heard a lot about cognitive dissonance in the commentary channels for multi-level marketing. In your opinion, do you think that cognitive dissonance plays a bigger part in impacting people in multi-level marketing, or that the tyranny of the shoulds does?
Yeah, so I did actually take that into effect as well. I was going to ask you the same question, but in a different way.
Okay.
I was going to ask you if you feel like there is a shift. So the cognitive dissonance might be, let's just say, when you start in an MLM, but once you've conquered that and you know what you're doing as a top leader or something, and Erin, feel free to chime in. Also, hey, Erin, because I had you in mind for the question, but do you feel as though that's where the shift is? And that's when you start to put pressure on a downline because you feel they should be performing, they should be doing these activities, they should be feeling happy all the time in order to be successful, versus cognitive dissonance, which is where you just entered into something. You're still having your internal conflict and you're trying to plug the hole with something else, and it's clearly not working. And that's where the frustration lies. I feel like there's a gradient between the two, and the gradient sits most at the top end for the shoulds. And that's also the point to that is that might be why certain people who are at the top feel unhappy because of the pressures in which they face themselves. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's definitely complex. That makes sense though, because I at least I the people I've talked to, and I was wondering myself, you work your way up in the pyramid structure of the compensation plan, and you're kind of setting aside, hey, this doesn't feel great now, but it's going to feel good in the future when I'm making a lot of money. Or, hey, it's a lot of long hours now, but maybe it's less hours in the future. And then when you get to the top and you sacrifice all of that, it's like, at what point do you pivot and your mindset starts changing to where you're getting a ton of other people to do the same thing? But I think you're spot on with what you said about the shoulds being towards the top tier pyramid performers and at least impacting, or they're leaning into that more as a top performer. I would wonder what Erin would say her answer would be to that question, because it's something I think that maybe, I don't know, maybe would be the answer would be different for
I
different
think
people.
the other element to that question for Erin was because she had military experience, and so it kind of lends itself to a different form of discipline and self-discipline, particularly, but also hierarchy. And I was just really interested to get that sort of take. But the thing is, you can live a life where you have shoulds. You say, I should do this, I should do that. And don't get me wrong, you can still say should. You can still say, I should get out of bed right now. I should have a shower. I should. You know what I mean? You can still, but when they're not self-serving like that, you can live a life of shoulds, but you can't live a life of cognitive dissonance. There will come a point where that switch is made. And I don't think there's any top living exclusively in the realm of cognitive dissonance, unless it's something that's not related to the MLM and it's to do with ego and personality. Like, I think Jesse Lee still lives in some form of cognitive dissonance, but absolutely nothing to do with the business.
Interesting. Do you think that... Oh, we lost him. We'll wait for the question. My question for the live chat was going to be, do you think that at some point your kind of litmus test in your in your soul of what you feel is right and wrong changes the more that you're exposed to something, and that reduces the cognitive dissonance that you experience in what you're doing in your life? So you may have had qualms about doing something early on in your career in multi-level marketing, and later on it becomes less of a challenge to overcome that uncomfortable feeling because you're desensitized to it. I'll ask Hunter. Hold on. Sorry about that. I think my program's just behaving badly. Oh no, we lost him again. Dad's TV is so loud, I need to move. Okay.
Can you hear me? Is it okay?
Yes, you're good.
All right, I changed the internet to my 5G, and I'm having no problems now.
Okay, great. Okay, so here's my question. With cognitive dissonance, do you think does cognitive dissonance ever change over time if you continually choose to do the thing that goes against like what you think is the right thing to do? So, for example, that uncomfortable feeling earlier on, it changes later on if you continually say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to continue to like just do the thing that I'm really uncomfortable with. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm not wording it correctly.
Yeah. No, I think it does, but only under the premise that new information comes in, not existing information, because then it becomes a cycle of reinforcement, which is really an echo chamber in behavior, thought, and information control. I think there's still room to have independent thought, but it has to be it has to be interpersonal, not intrapersonal. That's why you can never tell someone they're in a pyramid scheme, get out, because they haven't come to that conclusion themselves. But you can tell someone, and maybe think about the way that you're speaking to yourself and others when you use the word should or must or have, and what that does. And somebody can make a change of themselves, but it's a bit difficult when information is limited. And as we know, that's part of the BITE model. I don't think I need to explain the BITE model to anyone, but the thought control, the information control piece of it definitely ties into the shoulds. The behavior control kind of ties into a personality trait that lends itself to someone falling under that. I'm just going to quickly.
Hunter, I think you're back.
Is it good? Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. I knew it was happening. I could see it happening. It was trying to go to my other, the one I just switched from. This is going to be a bumpy ride, guys.
That's okay. That's okay. Everyone's used to it. It's we have technical difficulties here, so we're ready for it.
I know. I'm taking the brunt for you this time. Don't worry.
I appreciate it. That's so kind of you.
But yeah, that's kind of what I had for it. I'm not the best at sort of articulating this with MLM stuff because I haven't been in one, of course.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where I just wanted to put it on your radar, put it on other people's radar, that though cognitive dissonance is talked about a lot, it really is a broad term. It relates more to two conflicting thoughts that can't exist together. A should and a want can exist together. And
okay, that helps.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, if you give yourself a should mentality of I should be better, I should be Karen who's at the top, I should be on my phone messaging people, I should be, you're really just limiting yourself to a carrot at the end of the stick where everything becomes tunnel visioned. Hey, segue into the next point.
Heck yeah, love it.
Which is tunnel vision, or I like to call it self-indoctrination. So the first part of that, the tyranny of shoulds, is what I consider a preamble to someone who, sorry, I'm thinking out loud, but someone who is prone to maybe fall under the spell of someone in a vulnerable circumstance. But the next piece of it is, and the last one I wanted to say on that is toxic positivity often quells the negative contention that you have during the shoulds phase of it.
Okay.
But I want to just open it up to you and say, what do you think about tunnel vision and self-indoctrination, just from an outset?
So I guess I have a question before I answer that. Can someone use people's tendency to fall into that should self-talk again, like for their own gain? Meaning, I hear a lot of pitches, and I'll give you an example in Beachbody. I became a better mom because I joined Beachbody, because I was more in shape, because all this other stuff. And so, like, I know this is kind of an abstract, like, it's not exactly the same thing, but you should want to be a better mom. You should want to be a better dad. You should want to spend more time with your kids. You should want to be able to run with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so playing into some of those, hey, my ideal self would be less ragey and be able to, you know, not get tired out when, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is that even a thing to exploit that negative self-talk for their own recruiting benefit, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, so it kind of lends itself to that same thing where it's being conscious of the words that you use when you are trying to achieve an outcome. So if you are constantly using the word should in a negative way, you might not know it's negative, nor will you know it's positive, but you can always tell from the outcome. So, like I said, if you should get out of bed, or if you should have a shower, or if you should eat when you're hungry, then maybe, yeah, listen to those shoulds. But if you kind of find yourself perpetually disappointed in outcomes that you thought would go a different way, it's probably from expectation. So
Okay.
you probably didn't have a lot of expectation that things would turn out perfectly when you said should be a better person. You just left it open. It wasn't a closed expectation. Does that make
Okay.
sense? Like,
Yep.
I should get out of bed isn't the same as I should be this person or this type of thing. Because I
Yep.
should get out of the bed lends itself to, well, I'll get up and I'll go on with my day, and whatever the day brings, the day brings. If you would say, I shouldn't be someone who stays in bed all day, then you end up putting undue emphasis on a negative part of yourself. So that's why it's a tyranny, because you still have to live under it, but it's how you choose to adapt it. And so the best way I'd put it, I know the lady said try to recognize, but you really do have to try to recognize when you're using the words you're using and how you're speaking to yourself. If should is something that's in your vocabulary and leaves you disappointed, then, the irony is you should change that way of speaking to yourself. But if it's working in a way that benefits yourself and others, then it's probably not maladaptive. It's probably fine. There's a reason why it's still in our vocabulary. It's because should still means act, but it doesn't have to act. You have to feel that. You need to engage in a behavior or feel a certain way or think a certain way. And it just goes into that sort of triangle again of, let's say, how's the best way I can put it? Let's say you feel tired, so you are irritable, and then you think everything's annoying, and so you'd go put on a television show, and then you just get the shits and turn it off. That's a whole little spectrum of things, and it's as easy as that. Like that's just me trying to explain the little triangle that I have on my page.
Yeah.
But yeah, so long as something isn't maladaptive, I don't see any reason why you might need to change it. But when it's used as a manipulation tool, yeah, you should probably question. But that's the other thing, is I don't think anyone who falls under the tyranny of shoulds necessarily knows that the word should has as much power as they do, as it does.
Yeah.
Or maybe it does. We've seen plenty of Tim calls where they're like, you should be sending out, or what's that old one they always use? Showing up. That's an expectation they're placing on you, but they're not even using the word should. They're not using the word should, but the implication of the expectation is still there.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess going back to tunnel vision, since I derailed us a little bit, what can you talk a little bit more about that? And because I definitely detoured us a smidge.
Yeah, so I actually kind of, oh wait, no, I have a fair few notes on this, so I'm just gonna
Okay.
out. So where I found this was a scholarly article, but it wasn't actually to do with MLMs in particular. It was actually just to do with performance measurement. So short-term and long-term focus appropriation delusion. This measures chosen. Hang on. Okay, so I probably won't need to read out a lot of these notes because they don't really make a whole lot of sense at this point. But the first sort of one I wanted to put is linking performance to strategy. Looking at performance standards and then linking rewards to performance. So in my mind, tunnel vision is going into an MLM in this sense, looking at performance as measured by strategy, and then looking at financial gain as a result of performance, which is linked to strategy. And hey, Corinthians. And so I think what I wanted to ask you about is what puts someone in the headspace of ignoring family and friends, looking at an opportunity and going, I can do this, and turning on their blinders?
That's a great question. At least in my first opportunity in Mary Kay, the sales pitch that I was shown was directed at 4 different types of people, like the people who are looking for community, the people who are looking to make money, and I don't remember the other 2. Or the high achievers, so the people who wanted to earn trips and get recognition, and I'll have to remember the other one. So when they honed in on what type of person, and I was trying to bring in more money for our family, and they preemptively said not everyone likes the idea of network marketing or multi-level marketing, or Mary Kay was pretty sneaky about saying, oh, we're direct sellers, we're not multi-level marketers, which is false because they have downlines. And they said you may have to overcome people having negative associations with direct selling because blah blah blah. But we have and so they start telling you at the very beginning, hey, we have a great product and we have not undue, but people hate on us for no reason, so be ready for that. And then the stories they tell, they're always sharing that how their partner wasn't accepting of what they wanted to do, and then they got on board. And so they start chipping away at kind of your close group, painting them in a specific way. So when you start hearing potentially negative feedback about this opportunity that you have found, you already perceive those type of people as uneducated because they don't really understand the opportunity that you found and how incredible it can be. So I think that's the start of it. And then when you start getting recognition and you start meeting financial volume goals to earn trips and stuff, it feels great. And then you see your friends earning luxury vehicles and you're like, oh my gosh, this is tangible, and not pretend. This person I know who I'm good friends with earned their Cadillac, or they earned a $10,000 commission check, or they earned whatever it is. And then you're like, I can do that too. And then you start hitting your stuff, and then it becomes you against the people who care about you, because um I don't know, it's like you're trying to prove them wrong sometimes, and I think that it's different for different people. um I think in my mind I thought um that they just didn't understand it, or that I wasn't good at explaining it, so they didn't even have a chance to understand it well because I wasn't a really good communicator, or and I'm still not the best communicator about explaining it. So I thought, well, they'll figure it out when I XYZ. They'll figure it out when I get to be a director. They'll figure it out when I get to go on this trip, or they'll figure it out when I earn my first car. And come to find out that the MLM model is not all it's cracked up to be. So I don't know if I answered your question. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. I'm gonna switch away from my notes because the stuff I
Okay.
wrote down was too nerdy, and I don't want to read it.
Okay. No, we love nerd moments. So if you want to read it, you're totally welcome to.
I'll read it because I physically wrote it down, but if you don't understand, that's fine. I probably doesn't make a lot of sense to the point we just made, but I know what you're saying. You explained it quite well, and I think Jessica noticed that as well. But the measure chosen must make use of the financial and non-financial information in such a manner that is of value to all parties. In addition, the availability of the correct information and when it is required is necessary to support decision making at all levels within the organization. So too long didn't read. Basically, if you're given the right information, it should be mutually beneficial to give going, not give them something and then another thing, like you just said, car and then the wealth and then the this and then the this. It's like, why can't I have all that information up front? Why can't I have a paper that says, hey, this is a good trajectory that you want in an MLM? Which I still don't understand why they don't do. Just do it. Just put down, hey, if you hit these ranks, you get these things. It's,
Yeah.
it's never that though. It's, well, you might get this if you hold rank under these circumstances, if you sell this much, but only if you recruit that much. But if you do this, then you do that. But oh wait, we have a summer bonus. No, wait, the summer bonus is only if you're at this rank. It's always something. But that's why I can't understand this one part of it, and that is, do you identify the lies at any point? And if you do you justify the lies at any point that are told to you?
Yes and yes. I think it took me a while to identify the lies. And because at first I was justifying it, because I said, because they would always hold up these successful people and they would say, look at Susie, you can be successful just like Susie, or look at Sally, you can be successful just like Sally. She, you know, she lives in a basement and she is in $100,000 of debt and she doesn't have a car and she walks uphill both ways in winter to get to her Mary Kay parties and she sells $2,000 a party or whatever it is. I'm just joking. They hold up these people in front of you that say, if you can just work hard enough and be teachable, you can do that. Okay. Well, what does working hard and being teachable look like? Oh, well, you need to be buying this much in volume per month and you need to be selling this much. Oh, okay. Well, what happens when I buy volume from Mary Kay? Oh, you get a commission on it? But what if I don't sell that? Oh, you still get a commission on it? Oh, you left that part out in the working hard and being teachable. You just want a warm body with a credit card. And this is me being unfair. But they don't tell you, and when they start saying, oh, stars earn cars, at different levels in Mary Kay, and this is in other companies, but specifically in Mary Kay, if you do a certain number of volume, and yes, you could sell it or you could buy it, your upline director gets a bonus off of a specific chunk of volume for each diamond. So the different tiers. And so they say stars earn cars, but what they really mean is they get a commission off of every star, and it really doesn't matter if you earn a car because they're still financially winning if they're keeping you plugged in and buying from the company. And so after doing that so many times and not getting the car, even though I'm selling thousands of dollars a month, I'm saying to myself, do stars earn cars? I don't think that's the correlation. I think you have to earn a certain number of volume to get the car, and it's not just any star can earn a car. I don't know. I'm not really saying that correctly, but like when you shoot for something and you don't succeed, then you start asking questions, and it doesn't mean I'm slowing down the intensity of trying to follow all the rules and that my upline gave me. It just, after so many months of selling so much and working so many hours, it started making me ask questions later on. So
Which
go
I mean, yeah,
ahead.
it makes sense the way that to keep people confused, but I feel as though if you run a successful MLM, you would give people some indication of what you ranks with more clarity. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, rank 6, you get the car. Rank 7, we start to pay towards your mortgage. Dangerous, don't don't ever do stuff like that. But it's really hard to put myself in that mindset to fully understand. I kind of, when I was writing that question, was more like, what makes you determined that you're going to achieve those things despite all of the doubts that you might have? And again, all up to cognitive dissonance. It could come down to shoulds, it could come down to a number of different reasons. But what makes you ignore the questions that you have? Or is it fully that you're going to the wrong people for the answers you're looking for? Or is it that you've already alienated those? Is it that you have the sunk cost fallacy where you're already too far gone into this thing, where that's the next point I gave you as well, which was, I made no notes for, but the point of no return.
Yeah.
At what point do you just justify what you've created or started before, like, it does open back up for you again, and you open up your tunnel vision and you see everything? Is it so far and that, well, I've made it now, so it doesn't, it's like blurry line of, you know, where do you sit within it? And then a whole other question is, once you jump to another company, are you doing so? Are you taking over all those feelings, or are you recreating them under different leaders? Like, I've got so many questions about it.
Yeah. So to answer that question about which one was it, I think it was all of those things. I look at it more as layer on layer of those things building up for like what kept me in, or it's like a recipe instead of it's either they're all separate, instead they're all combined. So I think it's personality type of its life experience, its current financial needs, its potentially relational needs. It's again, so my own example, I'm a competitive person. I like problem solving in general. I like figuring out solutions that don't necessarily have easy answers. In sports, I grew up playing sports, and that's what I thought I was gonna do professionally, and that didn't work out. So I really like doing hard work. I like doing things that didn't look like it was going to have a positive outcome for me. And I liked achieving and beating the other player. And that's a part of me.
But
For,
I'll stop you
so,
there. That's
okay.
that's a perfect example of the difference between cognitive dissonance and the shoulds. Is like
Okay.
if you're in sports, right? You're like, I should beat that team. I should be a better player. But you're not sitting there going, I don't know if I'm playing basketball or sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
they kind of coexist, and
Yep.
the more that we're talking about, the more I'm like, oh, they're kind of parallel to one another at different times. So maybe it's not as easy as saying you're in this mind space or this mind space. They might very well, yeah.
I think it's both at the same time, and like that's a perfect example. I don't know if you've ever, when you were a kid, if you like climbed in the doorway, like the doorway where you're putting your pressure, like you put your feet on the frame of the door and your arms, and you like climb up to the top. Have you ever done that before? No?
Yeah, I was a little spider monkey kid. I did it all the time.
So if cognitive dissonance is on one side and the shoulds is on the other side, I think as one's pressing, like maybe the other one isn't as much, and so I think they're connected, and they're interacting, and they're taking up similar space even though they're not.
Well, do you know the beauty of it is you still have to hit the floor at some point.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
You still have to fall down and hit the floor at some point, whether or not you lean
for
more
sure.
on one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was so something that started getting me thinking like this isn't right. My director said it's not up to you to make financial decisions for other people. So if you think that someone can't afford the largest product package, you need to keep your mouth shut, because you need to just go through and talk to them about all the ones and why it's so good to have a full inventory, and let them make that decision for themselves. And I refuse to do that. I would get I don't know. Sometimes I'm very compliant, sometimes I'm very stubborn. So I had this one girl who was looking to sign up, and she was right at the poverty line. Meaning like and I don't say this in a judgmental way. I say this in, she was in a financially vulnerable position. I recognize that, and our directors didn't give a shit about people. And they said, you just need to follow the script and let them decide. When I know if you're a good salesperson, you can talk people into stuff that they can't afford sometimes. And so I didn't give the inventory talk to her. She said she had already signed up. I found out that my director called her behind my back and talked her into buying $1,800 worth of product when she didn't have the money for it. Her family didn't have the money for that. And that was the first crack in that these people don't really care about these recruits. They don't care what happens after they buy the inventory, or this is my assumption. Because if you, this is obviously judgy of me to say, but if we've built a friendship, or we've built an acquaintanceship, and I know that money is a struggle, I'm not going to like use my power for evil and make you spend money on something you don't need for a potential like shiny possibility that you're going to be able to make money. I'm just not going to do that. And I should have stopped. Like I should have.
Should.
I don't know. I knowing this now, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback now and saying, I wish I would have stood up earlier. I wish I would have stood up to so and so sooner. I'm glad I know better now, but it's frustrating knowing what happened then because it still harmed this girl financially. And um it 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 was slimy. It would just felt slimy. So that was the first big crack in the, like, when I started, I guess, instead of going full force, like riding on the bike in the tunnel vision, like putting on the brakes and saying, "Oh my God, I'm in the dark right now. I need to find a light switch." That's was kind of the crap. Crap.
But that's also because you've jumped down from the doorway and you're on the floor now, and so all those
Yep.
feelings that you spider monkeyed away from make sense. Just kind of, yeah. But I find it very interesting you were saying about being compliant and aggressive, which were two of the things I mentioned earlier, and the last one being withdrawal, which is where you are now. But you
Yeah.
usually choose one of those things because it has to work for you. It was really, I only found that today, so I'm still kind of thinking that over. And yeah, having been in sales myself, and having been in a corporate pyramid scheme, it's a different cake, but at the same time, it's still a cake. I think what you do is you listen more than you criticize or question. And you try to find out more information, but the information you're getting is the information you're given. You're never actually going to get answers to something that is truly going to be groundbreaking or anything that's going to get you to sort of leave. But it always squeaks out in small ways because not everyone is a perfect liar, and you can pick up like information. So like from the sort of tunnel vision perspective, that's where I can kind of see it going. I was also pretty young as well. But there's a question in of itself. Do you find that age makes a difference? Because we see people of all ages. There are some MLMs that target, like I know Amway and Cutco and possibly Monat targeted sororities and people who had just left high school. But do you think these things happen at any age, or is there some wisdom that you gain in age that might make you less likely to be taken advantage of?
And that's a great question. Real Clowntown, that was in Mary Kay I was talking about, but I think it depends on how you process experiences that you have to learn big lessons from. And if you never learn some of those lessons, then you potentially, and I say lessons, one of the things that I'm not really good at is asking critical questions and being curious enough. So even when I was working in legal document services, when I would go and pick up projects from clients, that was one of my weaker spots. I was great at interacting with people. I had built great working relationships. But in terms of the project, I didn't ask enough questions about the project itself. And that was something like I was trying to learn, but in general, I want things to go so smoothly that I guess the conflict of saying, okay, well, what if this happens? What then? Or you said this. Can you tell me a little bit more information about how that works? Or do you have recommendations of people I can talk to who have had a good experience with your company or whatever that is? I never ask in the past I haven't asked enough questions. So I think that's something um I'm still figuring out how to do that. I think it's one of the key I think it's one of the a valuable tool for people of any age and kind of any personality type to be able to not get taken in sometimes by these multi-level marketing
Yeah,
groups.
I think Jenny made a good point. I think anyone can be vulnerable. Young people have less life experience, and
Yep.
uh, I think more likely in some cultures to listen to elders, but less likely depending. I would replace the word elders with anyone who you might uh, deem as, you know, someone to aspire to. Elders is just a good example of someone because you've already seen how their life has played out for them. So you're like, well, cool, I might base it. But if you replace that with someone like a top leader,
Mm,
that's where the shoulds then come in, and
yeah.
that's how the behavior control starts. Definitely.
Yep. And I think too, I mean, one factor, and I don't know if this is something for a lot of people, but my husband's in the military and we move around a lot. So, not so. We move around a lot, and because we do, it's hard to pick up and plug into the next duty station and try to make new connections and also keep up your old connections. And in these multi-level marketing groups, you get to have a community. And I know we shit on that in the commentary space about how it's not real, but it fills some kind of gap. If you're really lonely and you don't have people to connect or engage with, and all of a sudden you have a lot of people on Zoom who are love bombing you, they're excited to talk to you, you're all working towards a goal together, you get to be creative and problem solve, even though it's for like meeting sales goals. It even if it doesn't fill that kind of void of loneliness in a complete in a complete way, it at least puts something there, even if it's just for a little while. And so I I think that it it is at least it was a factor for me um when I joined both of my multi-level marketing companies was the um you
I
know
find love bombing so intricate. Like,
uh-oh. Hunter, I think we lost you. Oh no. Hunter. I think it reconnected to his slow speed. We'll see what happens. Thank y'all for the support in the chat. And yes, we all love Hunter's Monstera. Here he's back. I think he's back. Thank y'all for hanging with us and for all of the support with um the tech stuff. We really appreciate y'all. I don't see him. Hunter. I think he's trying to get back in. I keep hearing the ding. Hello, Sky. Wait, is it Thursday or Friday? Thank you, Harper. Yeah, and I think like I don't think there's an issue with I don't think people should be bad. Oh, hey Beth. And this is something I'm still processing through, but someone said it on a talk, or I think someone smart said something. And I need to find out who it was because I don't like saying stuff without giving credit. But they were saying that it's not an issue with being vulnerable. It's about people taking advantage of your vulnerabilities. And so I hope that as hopefully Hunter comes back, if you're on my channel or if you're listening to other multi-level marketers, that you don't feel any kind of burden on yourself if you do have vulnerabilities, because the issue is with people taking advantage of those vulnerabilities. And which is wrong. So I think that that's a specific thread that I want to continue to try to elaborate on, because I think sometimes a tendency, at least for me, is, oh, if someone is taking advantage of me, then I'm just not going to be vulnerable anymore. And I think you do what you can. You take care of your mental health. Here's Hunter.
Yeah, my
Hello.
internet's had enough. It just keeps cutting out.
That's
Um,
okay.
Okay. Hope it. If it does it again, I'll just. It's okay. Whatever. Um.
Everyone's so
dodgy.
excited to see you again. Let's go.
Let's go. No, but I think love bombing is really interesting. I'm gonna try to get this point in, and then I'll probably bounce because I can't keep this. I can't keep this internet connection stable, and it's really hot, and I want to open my window. But you'll hear the cicadas. Love bombing is really interesting because no one tells you to like how to do it or why to do it or what it'll mean to you. It actually does come across kind of altruistic, in a way. You know what I mean? Like, if I got love bombed in an MLM, I'd be like, "You're not going to be my upline. You're not going to make money off me. So why do you feel the need to do this?" But no one,
Yeah.
at least to my knowledge, apart from you'll get backlash if you don't. But does anyone actually ever really get that backlash? I mean, I know Jessica Hickson talked about it quite a bit. Like, why didn't you go and comment on so and so's post? But that does anyone ever want to be love bombed? Really?
Mm,
It's nice to hear a nice thing, but you know,
I think, and
does
this is
anyone
just
actually?
my
It's overwhelming.
perspective. If you have limited friends and you don't have, and those friends don't ever really say anything nice to you, and this is just from my perspective, so I understand this is not everyone's reality, but when someone is actually kind to you and you just haven't had a lot of people be kind to you, you believe it, I guess, or you are just happy that someone is saying something nice to you, which I know that sounds so like, have more self-confidence, believe in yourself more, but it's like, okay, I got it, but it's still nice when someone's nice to you. And I know that that's such a basic that's such a basic and simple, like, on the nose way to say something, but like when I was in Mary Kay and I didn't get it. And yeah, I am very gullible. Sometimes I don't understand sarcasm. I I am just like believe the best in people. I get like it secretly, like, I would love for Jesse Lee Ward to stop scamming people and to turn around and say like, "Hey, I'm not going to be doing shitty stuff to people anymore." Like, I still have that hope after following her for 8 years and knowing that she's probably never going to do that. But it's just when you, again, if you don't have a lot of friends and all of a sudden there's people nice to you and like they're happy to see you every time you come to a meeting, and they say, "Oh my gosh, great job on selling XYZ." It's like, "Oh wow, like I'm meeting goals. People are nice here. They don't, you know, I don't know. It just felt good, I guess, to be
You can
around
find
positive
it in other,
people."
you can find it in other places. It's just really funny that you like the way that you say that, like with something like Twitch, for instance, or YouTube or something. People might come in and say different things at different times, like "I love the stream" or this or that. which you could consider love bombing, but it's not. There's no collusion there. You know,
Yeah.
it's still nice to hear. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really funny concept. I think I need to think a bit more on what it is that underlies it all, because I've experienced it starting a new job, and you get the welcome email sent out, and then if you use Slack, then you get a bunch of Slack messages, and it's kind of like,
Yep.
I don't need this. I've just started this new job. Like I kind of want to just talk to the people who are in my team and get started on that. I don't really need the whole company to jump in and give me a welcome. Like, it's nice and it might be
Yeah.
expected, but it's not always welcomed in the same fashion. So it's kind of an interesting little sort of thing. And I guess love bombing is a broad term, but I'd say undue attention, because you haven't done anything yet. You know what I mean? Like, if you
Yep.
have a bunch of people saying you're amazing and you haven't done shit,
Yeah.
like, how can you accept that as a person? So you've got to put it in some
Hmm.
place. It has to go, I guess, to your ego is where it has to go, right? Like, can't go
Yeah.
to your efforts or achievements. It's
Sure.
got to go somewhere.
But even if
to
it's
your
not
ego.
directly towards you, that love bombing environment, even if you get to sit on the outer edge of it and just kind of like keep yourself warm by the fire, basically. I know that sounds so lame and like so needy, but it's like, oh my gosh, like I can sit in the back here and not be made fun of or be called names, or it's just like everyone has a
Yet,
different
yet.
backstory. Yes, yes, right, and then you get blocked, and then you get called a hater, got
and
it.
then and then you're
And
a
then
demon.
yeah, and then you're the demon hater person who has no love in their soul and hates their life and just, talks negatively about MLMs, yeah, so but it's
Oh, you
just
know what I wouldn't
yeah.
give to be someone who got blocked by everyone and then send them their own messages and be like, "Hey, what happened to this? We used to be so close." And that, like, just you know me, I troll.
Yes,
I don't troll. My friend Brinley May trolls.
yes.
You gotta look out
Brinley
for
May is an icon. Brinley May is an
She is the
icon,
moment.
absolutely. She is.
Yeah, she's a legend.
She is.
Skinny
She
legend,
is.
Brinley May. No one knows.
But
No one knows.
I think
But
to what you're saying is, you're being not as influenced or not as lured in by the same things that would for that I would be, like, oh my gosh, it's so nice here. My all of my I would say all of my siblings and my dad are very much the opposite of me. Like, there's some things that I don't get suckered into, but if you're nice to me, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what can I do for you?" Like, it's, I don't know why I'm like that, but my siblings and my dad is very like discerning, ask a lot of questions, don't mind conflict, can, don't really feel any kind of way about like pep talks or giving compliments. They're just kind of like, "Okay, why are you doing this?" They're very skeptical in a good way. And so they've
astute.
definitely kept me out
Yeah.
of no, I wouldn't say you're skeptical, but like curious, ask great questions, not really like, "Well, what's going on here? Why what's more, I don't know, safely skeptical." I don't know what the right term is, but
It's astute.
yeah.
It's
Yes.
astute. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not.
No,
For
no, no.
sure.
Well, clearly you are. Just, you know.
I believe everything. I
Uh,
can't help it. I'm the kid like, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And I'm the one that looks, or it's just how I am. I don't know how to do it.
well,
So,
I think another point I wanted to make, and I wish Tish was here to discuss, but in Australia, MLMs aren't much of a thing. Like, they do exist, but they're a bit more like, how if I said, if I if you go find a turtle today, like, yeah, you can find it. You can find a turtle, but you're not going to walk down the street and find a turtle, right? Like, whereas in some places of the world you probably could. And that's kind of the dynamic that it is. And I don't know why the culture here is so, I wouldn't even use the word skeptical, just maybe skeptical is the right term for it, but we're just kind of more attuned to things that seem too good to be true, is maybe the better way to put it.
Yep.
And something that comes along, and with a lot of commercialism in America, it kind of does muddy the waters a little bit on what's real and what's false and what's this and what's that. Whereas in other countries where it's kind of stripped back a little bit, where we're better able to go, well, that seems stupid. Like, probably nah. I'll still be your friend, but can you not say that shit to me again, please? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's fair. Okay. I don't know. It's just, it's different. And I have a story about when I did know someone who was in M11. I had no idea because she was so ashamed to tell anyone in her actual, and I worked with her and I didn't understand so much about her. It was almost like I did, but I didn't. And it was like she was living this dual life, but she was doing something at the time which was very admirable, and that was trying to get custody of her younger brothers. Now, she'd go outside constantly, and I was like, and she'd use the excuse that she was, speaking to people about this. And I'm like, at times I was like, there's no way she's on the phone to, I don't know what you call them in America, but the Department of Child Services or Family and Community Services.
Children Protective Services or
Department
of Child Services.
Yeah, so I was like, she's not on the phone all the time. And then she'd have a skincare brand, and then we had this older lady who was our boss, and she's like, I used to sell Tupperware. In retrospect, I should have known because I was doing recruitment for the Yellow Pages, which it's fine. You would basically you would get paid 30 cents a book that you dropped from door to door. So you would sign up as an independent contractor. You would pick up a certain amount of books. We'd give you a map. You deliver them, or we'd do it with backpackers who wanted to make a bit of extra money, and community groups who wanted to put their kids out there. Like the Yellow Pages had to get to everyone's doorstep regardless. Why not get people in the neighborhood? They know the neighborhood. It was fun. But she worked with me doing that, and I remember she would post her ads. This is really funny now. Actually, I haven't thought about this for a while, so this is really funny. But she would post her ads, and I'd post my ads, and there were maybe two other people, and they'd post their ads or just use a general script. And I was very literal. I was like, this is the job. This is what you earn. We hold 5 cents for quality assurance per book. And, it's better to get a bunch of people involved. It's not a pyramid scheme, I promise. It's better to have a bigger number of people because we knew that it'd just be easier for them. You get it done, quicker time, whatever. It sounds like a pyramid scheme. But, if you've got a car, what sort of car do you have? And send me an email and just let me know, your circumstances or whatever. Hers, though, were riddled with emojis, and I didn't understand why. I was like, this looks childish. Why would you do this? A lot of people are going to be retirees who just want to make a couple extra bucks, scot-free. It's fine. Why would you think emojis are gonna? And then it all made sense years later, and I was like, oh, that's why she made a bunch of posts on Facebook where she looked completely different. That's why she was staying back late so she could use the computers to spam more people because she didn't have one. That's why she was on the phone all the time. That's why. And in all honesty, watching someone from the outside go through that, I was like, you could have been a good friend. That's all I thought. but so mysterious, so kept it under wraps. I never really understood. And then years later, I got hit up. No, probably only a year later, I got hit up, and it was like I didn't even respond to it or whatever. But if you're hitting me up, you must be pretty desperate. It was like wrinkle skincare. It was like
Oh
one of
my God.
those masks, and
Yep.
they did the like before and after and stuff. I don't even know what it was, but one thing that like really set me off was on her. She ended up getting fired or quit from the Yellow Pages job, and she went for like a holiday. Good for her, great. And she was like in a spa overlooking a beautiful thing, and it said CEO lifestyle, and I was like, bitch, no. CEO of what? I'm like, I watched you come in every day looking miserable and hating this dead end job that we were both in. Like, she was a great person, by the way. We were friends. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head. I was like, what is it? It's something. And it wasn't 2 years later. I was like, I did know someone in an MLM actually. I don't think she's there anymore, but great work ethic. Oh, here's one for you. I'm not sure if I've asked you this before, but would you hire someone who was in an MLM? If maybe I'll put a caveat to that. If you worked as a hiring manager for a marketing position or something like that.
Yes, I would. And I know that that is an unpopular opinion.
Absolutely, yes,
I
I
know that
would.
yes, and here's why. Great work ethic. They will a lot of times they're problem solvers. A lot of times more often than not, they have good people skills. And I also suffered from my association with an MLM in terms of getting a job after I was out of one, knowing that I do have good work ethic. I show up to work on time. I go above and beyond when I I am at a job. I do have good people skills.
And
I'm
tech
customer
savvy.
serve. Yeah, I'm tech savvy too. And so like I have a lot of good skills that multi-level marketing didn't ruin those skills for me. And yeah, was it a judgment? Was I would say mess up in judgment? Sure, but I think that each time I interview and I was in a managerial position after I got out of Mary Kay, and I really did look at it as a person by person basis. And I would say give situations where it's like, okay, this situation happens, how would you handle it? And what they would be able to communicate to me from that, I would say, okay, let's have a second interview. And someone else, I was kind of the first person to get past, and then they would talk to the owner. Um, I just like, I'm not, and I'm not trying to speak about anyone else's perspective. I'm not a snob in terms of, oh, I'm going to look at your resume and say like, oh, you didn't go to college, we're not going to hire you. Oh, you didn't, um, whatever it is. If you've got the skills and you can show me that you can do that either in a tech sense or with people, yeah, then let's see what you can do. And I think it's, for me personally, it's more about, you could have someone who's great at everything you need a worker to do, and they're an awful team member and they are awful with customers. Or you could have someone who's mediocre at tech skills but can learn whatever, I'm saying tech skills, but they can learn what you need them to learn, and they already have that natural sense of taking care of the customer, being able to work with the team, stepping in when they see a problem. I look at more of that situation, and I don't think now would I put an MLM on a resume? I don't know. But if you're, if you're trying to explain that gap, being open and honest with your hiring manager and saying, "Look, I had a lapse in judgment and I got caught up in a multi-level marketing company where I was working 40 hours a week and not making a livable wage while I was working in this other job." I did learn some good skills from that, but I wouldn't recommend it to someone else, and I'm not doing it now, and I'm not associated with any MLM. So I'm, you know, I'd like to prove myself here if it's a good fit for your team. If I'm a good fit for the team you already have here, I think you can explain it away. But yeah, that's a long-winded answer to say yes. I'd hire someone if they were in MLM. So, which I think that's probably
Yeah,
the
I
unpopular
think the
answer.
struggle. No, I think the struggle only comes up when you're next to someone who hasn't been in an MLM and
Yeah.
you're looking at the same role. Um, I absolutely would, and it's for those points you mentioned, and as well as social media knowledge. I mean, you would have to probably prove that there was a learning curve at some point. That would be my only thing. And I asked a friend of mine who's, um, a marketing manager and has been for many years. And I said, would you hire someone? And she said, yeah, but it would have to be something they've demonstrated they put behind them. And I think, to use my other example of the girl that I used to work with, if I put her straight into something that wasn't multi-level marketing and she understood everything, I still feel like those traits of how she used to recruit might have sunk in too deep. And I'd just be a bit wary of the taste level, maybe, of
Sure.
the way that they would approach something like marketing. Sales, person to person. That's always something you have to make the judgment on. You're either
Yeah.
likable or, let's just say you have something to work on.
Yeah.
With sales,
Yep.
it's very much that. It's very much
Yep.
that. And
Yep.
especially in corporate sales where you're speaking with people who aren't you, it's not Becky talking to Susie. It's Becky talking to Roger, who's this CTO or something. It's very different, and that kind of decorum needs to come through training. But
Sure.
I don't see why not. That person still showed that they were working in a sense.
Yeah.
But it might reflect badly in the future if they bring in bullying tactics or
Yeah.
in-group out-group behavior and things
Yeah.
like that.
I
Yeah.
think one of the strong things too is sometimes good people fill in the gaps for systems and policies that aren't as strong. So you have some companies, maybe more of the medium to small size companies, that they've been able to hire really good people, so they didn't need to necessarily have good um if this happens, then we do this. If this happens, then we do this, and so on. And so if you have those clear cut boundaries and processes in place that is clearly communicated to your team, then it is and you have a manager or a team leader or whatever that looks like who is a good communicator and not only can get the team to come together to achieve goals for the company, but can say in a way that um like they're able to connect with people on a good level, not necessarily shame, but be able to lead and inspire that if something does happen, look, we don't do that here. We don't um continue on having conversations when a customer's in front of us, or if you're the receptionist, when a customer comes in, we look them in the eye, we acknowledge them, we ask them, how can we help? And or how can we help you, or whatever that is. I'm using very basic examples, but I think it's in the training, and I think it's in the clear consequences for if we deviate from the behavior that we're looking for, not in a controlling way, but in a, this is how we run the company, this is how we serve our customers, this is how we're a team. And and these are the things that are not team like, or these are the things that are not serving our customers. And if those happen, there's timeouts, and then there's, we're gonna have to let you go, or whatever that is. And so I think that, yeah, I think you can run into I think you can run into major problems with some people. I don't know if I don't believe that. Well, I don't know. I guess I like want to give everyone a chance, and I know the power and having clear communication with people can really help and
Yeah, I think
prevent
Beth
stuff.
made a good point there about um, toxic positivity, and I think to expand on that a little bit, reactivity to certain situations,
Yep.
how you might react, and whether or not that person reacts with uh, understanding or anger or something is kind of hard. Like it
Yep.
would be, that would probably be one of the things that I struggle with trying to understand with someone is what is it about you other than the skills you have that good training, good culture, and career growth opportunity can, like, where can you sit on those? And it's a good point about toxic positivity because there might also be negative reactivity, and there
Yep.
might also be sweeping things under the rug, which I think toxic positivity would be in a corporate sense. Maybe if we used an example like McDonald's because it's so regimented. Um, Someone who was in an MLM probably would not be a good general manager of a McDonald's, for instance.
Hmm.
And I feel like that because it's a lower end job for some people and leading some people into, oh God, the girl I live with just left the house. I don't like her. Anyway. I can see from her window she's getting kicked out soon. I had a call from the police the other day about her. I don't even know her.
What?
I don't even know her, and the police called me about her. Yeah,
Oh my
she's
god.
yeah, whatever. It's all good. Um, but yeah, like there's certain people that are suited to certain things. I think when you're younger, I worked at McDonald's. I know what it's like. I did that when I was 14. Um, I don't know how young people are in America to start working at McDonald's.
So yeah, in some places like you can do limited hours at 14 and 15, and then you can start working more hours at 16. So
Yeah, so being able to manage those people who are very young, and then someone who's, they want to make their progression through to manager and then also higher ups and things like that, and then a franchise owner as well.
yeah.
Someone in MLM probably couldn't, and they would resent it also for having said
Yeah.
so much about traditional jobs for so long.
Sure. Yeah, and
They,
I
they
think
probably would.
I
So.
think it's hard to go from a team member where you're more of the cog in the wheel, and I don't say that disrespectfully, but like you're more of tell me what to do and I will do it, to being able to coordinate multiple people and get the team to run together well. Like that's a big jump from more of employee like with no managerial access to coordinating, motivating, leading, putting out fires, stuff like that. So I don't know. And again, all of the MLMs that I've seen, like the Monet ladies at the top levels, Prove It, all that stuff, I don't know how they would run teams in like McDonald's or in any corporate setting, because I've never seen a really good Zoom training ever where it's motivating and clear and there's no uh I I I don't know.
Well, going back to tunnel vision, I mean, they probably don't ever envision that they would do it ever again. They think that whatever they're looking at right in front of them is what they're going to be doing forever, which is a really, really bad mindset to have. Um, because even when I found a really, really great job, not once do I ever think I'm going to be doing this for life.
Hmm.
I know there's always an eventual end. There's always going to be a point where I've gone, okay, cool, I've learned everything there is to learn here. I've achieved quite a lot. I've loved working here. However, adios, something new is exciting for me. I'm not sure if that mentality could change. I mean, it probably could, but it would probably take them a couple of jobs to go through before. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the caveat. They need to have a buffer between
Hmm.
the MLM and hiring them into a certain role,
Yeah.
and then
Even if they
use
could
that
be,
buffer.
because they're always told you're a lifer. You're going to do this for the rest of your life. Here's your 5, 10, 15, 20, 25-year down the line. So like it's hard to get out of that mentality. It was hard for me to get out of it from Young Living because I was in Young Living for 3 years, to go from that to, oh my gosh, this is an unhealthy work relationship, because I got like a working environment, because I had gotten a job right out of Young Living, and I was able to say, this is not healthy for me. I need to leave after 3 months. But I was struggling with, how can you be a loyal person if you already told them that you accepted the job and you knew the conditions and you can do all the tasks. And it was very difficult, eh, just to process, like, my mental health is not good here, and it is okay to pivot. And it's still it but because I was so in that mindset of, you commit to something for a long period of time, and that was something that was communicated in both MLMs that I was in too. So it may if the people who leave an MLM go to a regular job, that I think that mindset is going to be hard to work through as well, because that is something that's pushed on in a lot of the calls that I've seen, at least.
It just feels like that would have been my trigger, or one of my triggers personally, is if somebody said the word lifer to me. There's probably, I'm going to be doing something completely different next year or in a couple of years. How can you expect me to commit to that? That
Hmm.
doesn't seem logical. It doesn't seem viable. So that's the one thing that I always clown on when it comes to people who are like, I'm a lifer. It's like, I don't even think you believe that. I think
Yeah.
you're trying to get other people to believe that. But does anyone actually consider themselves a lifer in one company? I don't think so.
Hmm.
And that's the Schutz part, not the cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, they might believe that they're going to be there for a long time and then quit, sure. But a lifer? Dude, that's only like high earner sort of mentality talk.
Sure. I
Doesn't
think
make
that's
any
probably
sense.
also a group. Yeah, I think it's a long term. It's that transition. It's your job versus the people who don't believe that you're going to be successful at it. Then it's you trying to be successful versus, you know, the the friends or the acquaintances or the people who have told you no when you've tried to sell them something. Then it's now you're really close with the group that you're in, so then you're all striving towards a goal. And then it's us versus the world. And then it's like, okay, we're doing this for life. I don't know if it's exactly like that, but I think it's obviously not going from day one in a multi-level marketing company saying, "Yep, I'm a lifer." I think there's time, and um there's layering, and there's desensitizing, and there's all this stuff that goes into how that person goes from day one in a multi-level marketing company to those lifer posts that we saw in Monate, and we see that in other companies too.
I would only hazard a guess. I mean, this is going to sound shady or whatever, but Mary Young's probably the only one who's going to be a lifer because of her age. But hey, you didn't hear it from me, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Young was a lifer, scammer.
Yeah,
I
he
guess,
was a
right?
lifer. He was definitely a lifer,
Oh my
and
god.
he clearly led quite a life.
Yes.
But
Yep. Yep. Well,
all right,
um,
let's. I'm gonna probably let you go.
sounds good. But Hunter, I would love to have you on the stream again. So hopefully you're up for that. We can talk in Instagram and set up another time.
Yeah,
So
maybe we'll try to format it a bit differently. I kind of thought
okay.
that I might have a bit more to say on the topics I did, but it sort of seems like they're kind of more conversational, so and less educational, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did great. So, um, I don't know. Live chat, let us know what you thought, and replay crew, leave us recommendations in the comments, and we'll take a look see. So, Hunter,
Yeah,
thanks for joining.
no worries. Thanks for having me, and I'll see you. I'll see you all soon. Yes,
Sure.
I'm around.
Okay. Cool. All right.
All right.
Well, everyone, thanks so much. Bye.